Imagine standing before 8,000 people, with a rifle across your shoulder, a belt of ammunition around your neck, and the chief minister of an Indian state waiting for you on stage. Behind you, the ravines where you spent years hiding from police. Ahead of you, a prison cell, dozens of criminal charges, and no guarantee that the government will keep its promises. The woman walking onto that stage was only in her early 20s. Some called her a murderer. Others called her a goddess. History remembers her as Phoolan Devi, the Bandit Queen of India. Tonight, we're exploring a life shaped by poverty, caste, violence, revenge, and one of the most controversial transformations in modern Indian history. Welcome to the podcast, You Can't Unhear. Phoolan Devi was born in 1963 in a poor Malla family in rural Uttar Pradesh. Her community occupied a low position within the local caste hierarchy. And from childhood, Phoolan learned that land, status, and even dignity were not distributed equally. Her family owned a small piece of property, but a dispute with relatives reportedly left them with very little. Even as a child, Phoolan resisted. She argued, she protested, she refused to accept decisions simply because they had been made by older or more powerful men. That defiance would later become central to the legends surrounding her. But at the time, it offered little protection. At around 11 years old, Phoolan was married to a man many years older than her. Accounts of this period vary in some details, but they agree that the marriage was abusive and that she eventually fled and returned to her family. Instead of being welcomed home, she was treated as a source of shame. In the world she had been born into, a girl who left her husband could be blamed, even when she was the one who had been harmed. Years later, Phoolan's life would be presented as an extraordinary rebellion. But it began with something painfully ordinary. A child, failed by the adults around her. As a teenager, Phoolan became involved in repeated disputes within her village. She was arrested after being accused in a family property matter and later described mistreatment while in police custody. Then, around 1979, she entered the world of the Chambal bandits. Exactly how this happened remains disputed. Some accounts say she was abducted. Others suggest she offered herself in exchange for the release of a family member. Phoolan herself told different versions at different times, once writing that perhaps fate had simply decided she would become a dacoit. That uncertainty matters. Her story has been retold through journalism, autobiography, film, politics, and folklore. Each version reshaped her into something different: victim, criminal, avenger, or legend. The Chambal Ravines were ideal territory for armed gangs. Deep gullies cut across the landscape, forming narrow paths, hidden camps, and natural barriers against police. Generations of dacoits had used the region as a refuge. But Phoolan entered that world as a teenage girl, from a lower caste, surrounded by armed men. According to several biographies, she was abused within the gang. One member, Vikram Mullah, eventually killed the gang leader and took control. Phoolan later described Vikram as the first person who treated her as human, rather than as property. For a brief period, she had protection. Then, Vikram was killed during a struggle for control of the gang. After Vikram's death, Phoolan was reportedly taken to Behmai, a village dominated by upper caste Thakurs. She later said she was held there and repeatedly assaulted. She eventually escaped and formed another gang. Then, on February 14th, 1981, armed bandits entered Behmai. They demanded the surrender of men believed to have been involved in Vikram's death and Phoolan's abuse. When those men could not be found, villagers were rounded up. 20 men were killed, while 2 survived. The attack became known as the Behmai massacre. This is where the historical record becomes especially contested. Phoolan was accused of ordering the killings. Some journalists and later retellings presented the massacre as her revenge. But Phoolan denied personally participating in the executions. 2 survivors reportedly said they had not seen her among those directing the shooting. Other accounts strongly contradicted that claim. What is not disputed is that her gang entered Behmai, that men were lined up and killed, and that Phoolan became the central figure blamed for the massacre. The killings transformed her from a regional outlaw into a national obsession. To the families of the dead, she was responsible for mass murder. To some poor and lower caste communities, she became a figure of violent resistance. Someone who had struck back against a system they believed offered them no justice. Both images followed her for the rest of her life. Police launched a vast manhunt. Phoolan's family faced pressure. Her mother was reportedly detained for months. But the Ravines protected the gang, and direct capture remained difficult. Eventually, authorities pursued negotiation. A police superintendent named Rajendra Chaturvedi began establishing contact with Phoolan. He entered the Ravines, met her in person, and tried to convince her that surrender would not mean immediate execution. Phoolan remained suspicious. She feared the police might stage an encounter, kill her, and claim she had resisted arrest. The negotiations stretched over months. Phoolan demanded conditions. She wanted protection from the death penalty. She wanted her gang imprisoned in Madhya Pradesh rather than Uttar Pradesh, where she believed caste hostility could place her life at risk. She asked that her family receive land and that her brother receive work. She also sought a limit on how long she and her gang would remain imprisoned. The government did not formally guarantee every demand in the exact form she wanted, but the negotiations created enough trust for the surrender to proceed. On February 12, 1983, thousands gathered in Bind, Madhya Pradesh. Phoolan walked toward the stage wearing khaki clothing, a red cloth tied around her forehead, and a rifle in her hands. She placed the weapon before Chief Minister Arjun Singh, removed her ammunition belt, and offered a garland before an image of the goddess Durga. The crowd erupted. For the government, it was the end of a costly manhunt. For the public, it was almost theatre. An outlaw had stepped out of the Ravines and surrendered not in secrecy, but before an audience of roughly 8,000 people. Phoolan expected to spend no more than 8 years in custody. Instead, she remained imprisoned for more than a decade, largely awaiting trial. She faced dozens of charges, including murder, kidnapping, and robbery. Her health deteriorated. She developed tuberculosis and other medical problems. Yet the Behmai case never reached a final verdict against her during her lifetime. In 1994, the government of Uttar Pradesh withdrew the pending cases, and Phoolan was released after approximately 11 years in jail. For the victims' families, her release felt like justice abandoned. For supporters, it was the release of a woman who had spent years imprisoned without conviction. the same event produced two completely different truths. That same year, director Shekhar Kapoor released the film Bandit Queen. The movie transformed Phoolan's story into international cinema, but she strongly objected to how her life and sexual violence were portrayed. She argued that the filmmakers had exposed and exploited her trauma without fully respecting her version of events. Once again, other people were turning her life into a story, and Phoolan was fighting to control who had the right to tell it. The film made her globally recognizable, but it also intensified the conflict between the real woman and the symbol the world wanted her to become. Then came another transformation. In 1996, Phoolan Devi stood for election with the Samajwadi Party, representing Mirzapur. Critics were furious that someone accused of mass murder could enter parliament. Supporters saw something historic. A poor, lower caste woman, once rejected by her village, now entering India's most powerful democratic institution. She won. After losing her seat in 1998, she returned to Parliament in 1999. As an MP, she focused on the concerns of disadvantaged communities, particularly women and lower caste voters. She was not a polished political speaker, but her presence alone carried enormous meaning. The girl who had once been told she brought shame to her family was now speaking inside Parliament, but her past had never disappeared. On July 25, 2001, Phoolan returned to her official residence in New Delhi after attending Parliament. 3 masked men were waiting outside. They opened fire. Phoolan was struck repeatedly and died before doctors could save her. She was 37 years old. A man named Sher Singh Rana later claimed responsibility, saying the assassination was revenge for the Behmai massacre. He was eventually convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. Even in death, Phoolan remained trapped inside the same unresolved conflict: caste, revenge, violence, and the question of who had been denied justice. So, what was Phoolan Devi? A murderer, a survivor, a political symbol, a product of a system that repeatedly failed her. The honest answer may be, all of those things existed within the same story. Her suffering does not erase the lives lost at Behmai. And the massacre does not erase the violence, poverty, child marriage, caste discrimination, and abuse that shaped her childhood. A victim can become an offender, and an offender can later become a symbol of hope. Phoolan Devi entered history as the Bandit Queen. But behind that title was a child who was never protected. A woman accused of terrible violence, a prisoner held for years without trial, an elected representative, and finally, a victim of revenge herself. Her story is not a clean story of good defeating evil. It is a circle where humiliation became anger, anger became violence, and violence created more violence. Thanks for joining me tonight. What a story, right? Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode of the podcast, You Can't Unhear.